Hi, guys, and welcome to our online lab webinar this week. I hope you all are safe and sound wherever you're staying and that you are keeping your spirits up during this difficult time. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Allie, and I am a Bio 151 TA at SIUE. And today I'm going to be giving you a brief rundown on the bird and mammalian closed circulatory system, how this closed circulatory system would differ from an open circulatory system, and touch on an evolutionary shift that occurred, resulting in a two-chamber ventricle system versus a one-chamber ventricle system. So put on some comfy socks, grab some tea, and let's dive right on into this bloody good time. All right. So starting off, when we look at a closed circulatory system versus an open circulatory system, in a closed circulatory system, there is a heart which pumps blood through vessels, okay? And it is distinct from the surrounding interstitial fluid. Now, don't get caught up on the word interstitial, okay? Basically, what interstitial means is the fluid surrounding the cells. So what we are trying to distinguish is that the heart is pumping blood specifically through vessels, and this blood has no contact with any other fluid in the body, okay? This is in contrast to an open circulatory system, where in blood, which in this system would not be called blood, it would be called hemolymph, okay, is not enclosed in blood vessels, but rather is pumped into a cavity called a hemocoil, okay? And it is circulated via movement of the body, so movement of the muscles in the body, rather than a actual physical heart. Again, don't get caught up on the word hemocoil either. The big thing that we want to note is that in a closed circulatory system, you have a distinction between the interstitial fluid and the blood. And in an open circulatory system, you don't. The blood is just pumped into a giant cavity. All right? So that would be a difference between a closed versus an open circulatory system. Contrastly speaking, let's talk briefly about this evolutionary shift. So when you have a heart, okay, or a system which has one chamber ventricle, right? That is not going to have a distinction between deoxygenated blood, which has already been circulated through the body, and oxygenated blood, which has just had oxygen added back into it, okay? So what's going to happen is we see this shift based on a shift from an aquatic lifestyle to a terrestrial lifestyle. So when birds and mammals, this ventricle is divided so that one side pumps blood into the lungs, which is called pulmonary circulation. But again, don't get hung up on that. And the other side, the other side is going to pump the blood to the rest of the tissues. So that's going to be called systemic circulation. So basically, in a two-chamber ventricle system, you're going to have one side of the heart dealing with this oxygenated blood and one side of the heart dealing with deoxygenated blood. So one side of the heart will take deoxygenated blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen, and then the other side of the heart will take oxygenated blood that has just come from the lungs where it has picked up oxygen, and it will put that oxygenated blood out to the rest of the system so that your muscles can receive oxygen and your internal organs and blah, blah, blah. Okay. The evolutionary shift that happened, the reason that this is beneficial is that you actually see a higher function. So it boosts the function to have a separation between oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay. The overall function is higher, and you also having two chambers allows for a function at a much higher pressure than a one-chamber system. Okay. Let's talk about the system then briefly. So this is a heart, okay? The right side, so everything that is in blue, is going to deal with deoxygenated blood. Everything that is in red deals with oxygenated blood. So it's always going to be the right side is dealing with deoxygenated blood. The left side is dealing with oxygenated blood. So if we start in on this system, on the right side, what will happen is blood will come in from the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. Okay, it will enter through here and here, and it will dump into this right atrium. From there, that right atrium will contract and it will open up this tricuspid valve. Okay, so this little section right here, right? This will open up and the blood will spill into this right ventricle. All right. Once that ventricle is full, that tricuspid valve will close so as to prevent blood sliding back into that atrium when the ventricle contracts. So this tricuspid valve will close, the ventricle will contract, and then the blood will go up through this pulmonic valve, pardon me, up through this pulmonic valve and into the pulmonary artery, right? Something else that's important to distinguish: arteries handle deoxygenated blood, veins handle oxygenated blood. So if I'm talking about an artery, we're talking about something that handles deoxygenated blood, all right? Vein, oxygenated blood. All right, so what will happen is the blood will go from this right ventricle up through that pulmonic valve and into this pulmonary artery, and it will take it to either side and into the lungs where oxygen will be released. So oxygen and carbon dioxide travels to and from the tiny sacs in the lungs through the walls of the capillaries and into the blood. Okay? So what will happen then is on its way back from the lungs, it will come back through the pulmonary veins, all right? And it will be spilled into the left atrium, all right? So the pulmonary veins will carry the blood that has been oxygenated back from the lungs, and it'll dump it into this left atrium, okay? The left atrium will then contract and open what we call the mitral valve, right? Which is right here, this little section right here, this little flap, all right? Once the mitral valve is opened, it will spill into this left ventricle. And once that left ventricle is full, that mitral valve will close. And the left ventricle will contract and it will send the blood. We can't see it on this because, you know, we're seeing like it's blocked by this right side of the heart. But the left ventricle, when it contracts, it'll send the oxygenated blood up through the aortic valve and into the aorta, and this aorta will take the blood to the rest of the system, to the rest of the body. Okay, so that oxygenated blood will now go to the muscles and internal organs and everything, and it will deliver oxygen to the rest of your body. All right, and so this is how it works in birds and mammalian systems. And yeah. All right, so we're going to put that, that system that I just talked about, you would put it on a continuous loop because the heart is always pumping. So, yeah, thank you for those of you who are still with me. And thanks for watching. And stay tuned for more videos during this wild and unpredictable semester. I appreciate you and good luck. Allie out.